There we go. So, Carousel, we're going to talk again about taking some really great musicals, breaking them down, and looking at what made them the classics that they are. When Rodgers and Hammerstein wrote Oklahoma, no one anticipated that they'd ever really do another musical together. It was almost pictured to be a one-off. And as things happened, it was so successful that people came to them about what could be next. Well, Larry Hart had suddenly died, and this left him available. Oscar Hammerstein went on to write a version of Carmen called Carmen Jones, using the Bizet music and writing his own libretto to it. But there was a very famous play called Lilium. It had been written by Frederick Molnar in the early 1900s. The story of a carnival barker and a woman in Hungary who falls in love with him. And it was very popular at the time and had just been revitalized or reviewed revived, I should say, with Ingrid Bergman and Burgess Meredith. It caught everybody by storm, and the idea of taking Lilium and turning it into a musical became really a hot topic of excitement. Well, as time would be, Kurt Weill actually wanted to stage it as a musical, but Kurt Weill and Frederick Molnar, who wrote it, didn't get along at all. And what happened next was that just by chance, the Theater Guild took Molnar to see Oklahoma. He was so impressed with what they did with what he called a mediocre play that he imagined what in the world they could do with what he believed to be his great masterpiece. Well, Carousel was a whole bunch of firsts. And because there was John Raitt, who was a trained opera singer, Jan Clayton, who was a beautiful soprano, went on to actually be Lassie's mother in the early 1950s. There are many things about Carousel that caught on. The first was that it opened very differently. It didn't open with an overture, it opened with a ballet where you meet all of the characters, seeing what they're going to interact and how they're going to play out. And this is the Carousel Waltz. I see there's a comment here. Yeah, the picture on that one is a little blurry. So Carousel, the gist of it was classism. The fact that it was set in New England gave Richard Rodgers the opportunity to involve sailors and to create other kinds of music. The very strong sexual tension between the characters. The fact that New England was very cruel adds to the dimension of the story. And this further develops the Rodgers and Hammerstein style of having a matriarchal figure, having two couples, one a primary, one a secondary, and having a villain. And this is the story of fantasy and redemption, and was brilliant at the time. It was always obvious that people would compare Oklahoma to Carousel. They also felt that Lilium needed a more upbeat ending than it had. So Carousel, with Billy Bigelow coming back to see what he left behind, were both very, very important to the construction of the piece. Well, the intermingling of a love song with dialogue was something that Rodgers and Hammerstein had really worked on. In Oklahoma, they had people will say we're in love. But in Carousel, If I Loved You is a 12-minute scene referred to as the bench scene, where they intermingled dialogue and the song, If I Loved You, and it was very, very special.
What's the use of wondering?
I want to skip a second. Wait a minute. I think I have the bench scene here for you somewhere. If I don't, I'm really remiss. Here it is.
Remember that exciting night when John Raitt and Jan Clayton opened in Carousel? Well, they're here with us tonight. Carousel is the story of two lonely people trying to find their place in the world, trying to find a meaning in their lives. This is their first meeting. He has been fired from his job for noticing her. She has been fired from her job for letting him. And now they're alone.
Say, tell me something. Ain't you scared of me? I mean, that's what that cop said about my taking money from girls.
I ain't scared.
That's your name? Julie? Julie something?
Julie Jordan.
You're a queer one, Julie Jordan. Ain't you sorry that you didn't run away? You can still go if you wanna.
I reckon that I care to choose to stay. You couldn't take my money if I didn't have any, and I don't have a penny, that's true. And if I did have money, you couldn't take any, 'cause you'd ask and I'd give it to you.
You're a queer one, Julie Jordan. Ain't you ever had a feller you'd give money to?
No.
Ain't you ever had a feller at all?
No.
Well, you must have had a fella you went walking with.
Yes?
Where'd you walk?
Nowhere special, I recall.
In the woods?
No.
On the beach?
No.
Did you love him?
No. I never loved no one. I told you that.
Hey, you're a funny kid. Do you want to go into town and dance, maybe, or
No. I have to be careful
of what?
of my character. You see, I'm never gonna marry. I'm never gonna marry. If I was gonna marry, I wouldn't have to be such a stickler. But I'm never gonna marry, and a girl who don't marry has gotta be much more particular.
Suppose I was to say to you that I'd marry you. Oh, that scares you, don't it? You're thinking about what that cop said.
No, I ain't. I never never paid no mind of what he said.
But you wouldn't marry anyone like me, would you?
Oh, yes, I would. If I loved you, well, it wouldn't make no difference what you did. Not even if I died for it.
How do you know what you'd do if you loved me, or how you'd feel, or anything?
I don't know how I know. Just the same. I know how'd it be if I loved you. When I worked in the mill, weaving that the loom, I gazed absent-minded at the room. And half the time the shuttle would tangle in the thread, and the warp would get mixed with the wool. If I loved you.
But you don't.
No, I don't. But somehow I can see just exactly how I'd be. If I loved you, time and again I would try to say all I'd want you to know. If I loved you, words wouldn't come in an easy way. Round in circles I'd go. Long to tell you, but afraid and shy. I'd let my golden chances pass me by. Soon you leave me, off you would go in the mist of day.
Well, anyway, you don't love me. That's what you said, wasn't it?
Yes. I can smell them, can you? The blossoms. The wind brings them down.
Ain't much wind tonight. Hardly any. You can't hear a sound, not the turn of a leaf, nor the fall of a wave hitting the sand. The tide's creeping up on the beach like a thief, afraid to be caught stealing the land. On a night like this, I start to wonder what life is all about.
And I always say 2 heads are better than 1 to figure it out.
I don't need you or anyone to help me. I got it figured out for myself. We ain't important. What are we? A couple of specks of nothing. Look up there. There's a hell of a lot of stars in the sky, and the sky's so big the sea looks small. And 2 little people, you and I, we don't count don't ever remember meeting another girl like you. You trying to get me to marry you?
No.
Well, then what's put it into my head? You're different, all right. Can't think what it is. You look up at me with that little kid face like you trusted. I wonder what it'd be like.
Why?
Nothing. I know what it'd be like. It'd be awful. I can just see myself. Kind of scrawny and pale, picking at my food, and lovesick like any other guy. I'd throw away my sweater and dress up like a dude in a dickie and a collar and a tie. If I loved you.
But you don't.
No, I don't. But somehow I can see just exactly how I'd be if I loved you. Time and again I would try to say all I'd want you to know. If I loved you, words wouldn't come in an easy way. Round in circles I'd go, longing to tell you, but afraid and shy. I'd let my golden chances pass me by. Soon you'd leave me, off you would go in the mist of day. Never, never to know how I love you. If I loved you. I'm not a fella to marry anybody. Even if a girl was foolish enough to want me, I wouldn't.
Don't worry about it, Billy.
Who's worried?
Right about there being no wind. Blossoms are just coming down by themselves. Just their time to, I reckon.
And this is the very famous bench scene. Now we back up so we can get to where we were. Carousel was Richard Rodgers' most favorite musical because he truly thought it was the most operatic. I see there's another comment in the chat. Let me just see what that refers to. When Carousel opened, were there many other competing musicals on Broadway? Yes, there were. Most of them have been forgotten. There was one called Bloomer Girl that starred Celeste Holm. On the Town was running at that point in time. A lot of the musicals that opened in that era have long since been forgotten. There's a great big long list, one called Mexican Hayride, something, many of them. But Carousel was the one in 1945 that truly seemed to have legs and survive. One of the great challenges of Carousel is how do you create sympathy for both Billy and Julie to understand how they did fall in love with each other? And this is Kelly O'Hara from a Lincoln Center concert version.
What's the he's good or if he's bad, or if you like the way he wears his hat. Oh, what's the use of wondering if he's good or if he's bad? He's your feller and you love him. That's all there is to that. Common sense may tell you that the ending will be sad, and now's the time to break and run away. But what's the use of wondering if the ending will be sad? He's your feller and you love him. There's nothing more to say. Something made him the way that he is, whether he's false or true, and something gave him the things that are his. One of those things is you. So when he wants your kisses, you will give them to the lad, and anywhere he leads you, you will walk. And anytime he needs you, you'll go running there like mad. You're his girl, and he's your fella, and all the rest is talk.
Very special, the way that she's very pragmatic about what her situation is. But, you know, again, Carousel created a very different sort of a musical that was really very tragic, but yet hopeful. And one has to remember that this was the World War II era, and it was revived about 5 years ago. Some of you may have gone with me, with Josh Henry and Jesse Mueller, and it was truly a spectacular revival, one of the best. And this was, let me talk about this. In 1992, Lincoln Center revived it and introduced us to a young actress by the name of Audra McDonald.
I'm glad you got a fella, Carrie. His name is Mr. Snow, and an upstanding man is he. He comes home every night in his round-bottom boat with a net full of herring from the sea. An almost perfect beau, as refined as a girl could wish. But he spends so much time in his round-bottom boat that he can't seem to lose the smell of fish. The first time he kissed me, the whiff of his clothes knocked me flat on the floor of the room. But know that I love him, my heart's in my nose, and fish is my favorite perfume. Last night he spoke quite low, and a fair-spoken man is he. And he said, "Miss Bridge, I'd like it fine if I could be wed with a indeed, Miss Bridge, if you'll be mine, I'll be yours for the rest of my life." Well, Mr. Snow, here I am! Then I'll kiss him so he'll know that everything will be as right can be, living in a cottage by the sea with me. For I love Mr. Snow, that young seafaring, bold and daring, big be-whiskered, overbearing, darling Mr. Snow.
Many people will tell you that Carrie is a much more fun part to play than Julie Jordan, because all Julie Jordan does is walk around miserable through the whole thing. And Carrie's the comic relief, but it's also the classism of the story where she outgrows Carrie because of the fact that she married Mr. Snow. Mr. Snow made a lot of money, and the children that she and Mr. Snow have looked down on the child that Julie had with Carrie. To the sailors in high, blow, low.
March went out like a lion, a whipping up the water in the bay.
Having Stephanie Blythe be Nettie Fowler is one of the great coups you could hope for, because she brings such joy to the part.
Keep them quick enough for some, and a crowd of Dalton Thomases.
And she's a character who's taking care of other people and looking out for a whole community, and is the wisdom and morality for the community, but is still very earthy and fun.
The sheep aren't sleeping anymore.
I think Nettie is not an incredibly well-developed character. She's a musical theater function. And at a very critical part of the storyline, she gives Julie an anchor that she desperately needs.
When you walk,
And I think the fact that she does that in a musical way with a song is so beautiful.
Kelly tries to sing You'll Never Walk Alone, and she only gets so far and she fails. And Stephanie just gently put her hand on her head and sang. And it was one of those moments of catching lightning in a bottle.
Keep your chin up high, and don't be
It was the first time she had sung it with Kelly standing over Nathan after he's just died.
at the end of the storm is a
And the whole room was just with agape. Their mouths were agape.
and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on.
This is from the revival, and I do want to say something about You'll Never Walk Alone. You have to remember when it was written. This was written in 1945, when so many people in the service were dying in the war, and people were losing people. And Richard Rodgers wanted to write something with Oscar that would give people hope. It's a song that's had tremendous impact ever since. But when they decided to put Carousel set in New England, they wanted to be able to capitalize on the sailors and the adventure that these sailors live with on a daily basis. You know, it was not an easy place to live, and they wanted to show this. Christopher Wheeldon did this fantastic choreography.
wonderful just to feel your hands upon a wheel and to listen to wind a-whistling in a sail. Or to climb aloft and be the very first to see a chrysanthemum spout come out of the snout of a whale. Go high, go low, away we will go. We'll go a-whaling, a-sailing away. Away we'll go, floating high and low, for many and many a long, long day.
And again, Richard Rodgers, initially when they thought they would write this, they were going to set it in New Orleans, but that just didn't work. Richard Rodgers couldn't find musical motifs. And by shifting it to New England, it really helped change the tone of the piece. And you could add in music and dance like that. The soliloquy, of course, happened by accident. We've already talked about two of the great developmental changes that Carousel brought to musical theater. The first being the Carousel Waltz, and the second being the bench scene where If I Loved You is performed. But when they met John Reid, who had come to audition for a touring company of Oklahoma to play Curly, they realized what they had here, and they wanted to come up with something so that the audience would understand that Billy Bigelow is going through a metamorphosis, trying to understand how he's going to support a child. And here is the famous soliloquy.
I wonder what he'll think of me. I guess he'll call me the old man. I guess he'll think I can lick every other fella's father. Well, I can. I bet that he'll turn out to be the spitting image of his dad, but he'll have more
nonsense than his puddin'-headed father ever had. I'll teach him to wrestle and dive through a wave when we go in the morning for a swim. His mother can teach him the way to behave, but she won't make a sissy out of him. Not him, not my boy, not Bill. Bill. My boy Bill, I will see that he's named after me. I will. My boy Bill, he'll be tall and as tough as a tree. Bill, like a tree, he'll grow with his head held high and his feet planted firm on the ground. And you won't see nobody dare to try to boss him or toss him around. No pot-belly, baggy-eyed bully will boss him around. And I don't give a damn what he does, as long as he does what he likes. He can sit on his tail or work on a rail with a hammer and spikes. He can ferry a boat down the river, or pedal a pack on his back, or work up and down the streets of a town with a whip and a horse and a hack. He can haul a scow along a canal, run a cow around a corral, or maybe bark for a carousel. Of course it takes talent to do that well. He might be a champ of the heavyweights, or a fella that sells you glue, or president of the United States. That'd be all right too. His mother liked that, but he wouldn't be president unless he wanted to be. Not Bill. My boy Bill, he'll be tall and as tough as a tree. Will Bill, like a tree, he'll grow with his head held high and his feet planted firm on the ground. And you won't see nobody dare to try to boss him or toss him around. No flat-bottom, flabby-faced, pot-belly, baggy-eyed bastard'll boss him around. And I'm damned if I'll marry his boss's daughter, a skinny-lipped virgin with blood like water. He'll give him a peck and call it a kiss, and look in his eyes through a lorgnette. Say, why am I carrying on like this? My kid ain't even been born yet. I can see him when he's 17 or so, and starting in to go with a girl. I can give him lots of pointers very sound on the way to get round any girl. I can tell him, wait a minute, could it be? What the hell? What if he is a girl? Bill? Oh, Bill! What would I do with her? What could I do for her? Bum, with no money. You can't have fun with a son, but you gotta be a father to a girl. She mightn't be so bad at that. A kid with ribbons in her hair, a kind of neat and petite little tin type of her mother. What a pair! My little girl, pink and white as peaches and cream is she. My little girl is as girls are meant to be. Dozens of boys pursue her, many a likely lad does what he can to woo her from her faithful dad. She has a few pink and white young feathers of 2 and 3, but my little girl gets hungry every night, and she comes home to me. My little girl, I gotta get ready before she comes. I gotta make certain that she won't be dragged up in slums with a lot of bums like me. She's gotta be sheltered and fed and dressed in the best that money can buy. I never knew how to get money, but I'll try. My God, I'll try. I'll go out and make it, or steal it, or take it, or die.
This is an amazing piece of music. It ends the first act of Carousel. It's an 8-minute, the stamina that you need and the dramatic heft. I mean, I've sung it, but I mean, I don't do it justice, to be honest. So it's not a piece that I would ever choose to do. But it was written specifically for the talents of John Raitt because he was a trained opera singer. And this was the first of soliloquies that appeared in musical theater. I mean, My Fair Lady had a soliloquy at the end with "I've grown accustomed to her face," but none of them would have happened if it hadn't been for the soliloquy here in Carousel. And of course, you know, there is the tragic piece of Carousel, the fact that Billy Bigelow dies mistakenly, actually killing himself out of fear, being caught by the police. So let me talk about this for a moment. Agnes DeMille was very much into dream ballets, and it sort of became a cliche of itself over time. But what happens in Carousel is Billy gets to look down from heaven and see what's going on with his daughter now 15 years later.
My father bought me my pretty dress. My father would have bought me a pretty dress, too. He was a barker on a carousel. Your father was a thief.
And this sets, Billy Bigelow's determination to come back. And this is how You'll Never Walk Alone really got written, both to be part of the story and again, to be comfort and solace for the people who lost so many during the war.
Thank you, John. This song of hope and resilience is dedicated to our troops serving around the world and their families. When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden sky and the sweet silver song of our love. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the wind, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never Joining me on stage are members of the armed forces and their military families. At the end of the storm is a golden sky and the sweet silver song of our love. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the wind, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart,
And that, of course, is the end of Carousel. Well, I hope you all enjoyed today looking at Carousel in depth. And I'll see you all next Friday as usual. And take care. It's great to see everybody. Bye-bye.